Um, so I noticed just before I streamed that you popped up, Chris. So how you doing? Welcome to my review of Close Enough second season. It's been good to meet you. Glad Gabby introduced us to each other. Have you seen the second season of Close Enough, Chris? See if I could make our window bigger. Yeah, don't mind me. I'm just still getting set up. Yeah, I don't think it's going to be possible. Well, that's cool. You said that you have seen it. What do you think of it? Because I just got done watching the second season myself. In fact, the reason this has been a very last minute stream was that I was pretty sure that I could do the review today. It was just that I wanted to be absolutely certain I could finish the last episode. So I've been spending the last few days trying to finish up. And you said that you thought it was good, which is great. I mean, I really liked certain episodes. I thought certain episodes were really funny and really creative, which I'll talk about. In fact, the very first episode I'm going to talk about I thought was really awesome and a great start to the second season. Yeah, don't mind me. I'm just posting a couple last minute social media things before I get started. Okay, so actually think I should be able to go with my iPad unplugged for this. So I think I'll go ahead and get started. So what's up, everybody? Blood Moon Bobby here. Whoops. Let me just get one little whoopsie fixed up. So yeah, so as the title of the video says, here today to talk about all of the new episodes of Close Enough. I just finished watching the second season. I thought they were all pretty good episodes. There's actually quite a few that I thought were really amazing and really fun to watch. And so yeah, so just been really fun. Still continuing to enjoy JG Quintel's work. I still think that he's still one of the very funniest cartoonists out there making shows. And I continue to love his surreal the surreal things he's doing Close Enough. So without further ado, let's get started with a really good episode. The first episode of the second season, and that would be Josh Gets Shredded. It's the episode where he starts to work out because after all these years, after like getting married and having a kid, Candace is he's not the fit individual that he used to be. In fact, one day he's playing with Candace and basically he ends up throwing out his back, although really it looks like his spinal cord just basically gets like shattered into an oblivion. And so he starts working out with this trainer to get getting really buff, starts working out at the gym, takes what I could only assume what kind of looks like steroids and gets super buff, but really wants to get to the ultimate level, which is called an absolute unit. The trainer character, what's his name? I think Jim Crunch, I think, was also a really fun character. Both Josh and Jim are both really funny in the episode. And yeah, so but the downside of Josh working out is he becomes so obsessed with becoming a beefcake that he ends up spending less time playing with Candace, his daughter, and Candace wants to play King Kong, and you could kind of guess where this is going, but I still think it's really awesome. What ends up happening is, and by the way, there are going to be spoilers in this review, by the way, so if you haven't seen the episodes, I would highly recommend coming back after checking them out. What happens is, of course, Josh becomes an absolute unit. Probably my favorite sort of shock humor related joke is after he becomes like an absolute unit, meaning he's super buff, and that's awesome, or so we think. And then Jim is like, hey, take a selfie with this fellow Polaroid, and Josh takes the picture but throws it back at Jim, but because Josh has gotten so buff, it goes through Jim, like just like goes through his body in like a very like bloody way, and ends up killing him. So it's just like, so Josh is like, oh, I'm gonna be so buff, I'm gonna go play with Candace, and of course, because they made the King Kong reference, he goes climbing up the Capitol Records tower. It's like when King Kong climbs the Empire State Building and that kind of thing. So it's just, yeah. And then of course Candace says that, oh, even if you're not strong enough to lift me up, I just still want to play with you. And it ends in a really heartfelt way. Josh gets like tranquilized but gets turned back to normal, and it ends in a really sweet way. So I really like the surreal humor and and just how much comedic energy there was in this episode. I guess you could like make the argument that the story itself is pretty simple, but I like the message. I mean, I thought it was like, it goes through that sort of struggle of Josh as he's starting to get older. He's not as fit as he used to be, and of course he wants to be able to spend time with Candace. And I like how Candace even points out that even if they can't have fun the same way as they used to, she could still have fun with she just wants to spend time with her dad. So yeah, I thought it was a really fun start to the season. I really liked this episode. Anybody else watching, if you'd like to point out your favorite moments or your favorite episodes of the 2 seasons of Close Enough so far, and there is a 3rd season on the way. JG Quintel said a 3rd season of Close Enough is coming. You could let us know in the chat. So next episode is Sauceface, and it gets into something that I really wanted to see more of. I mean, not that this is a problem with the first season, because I understand it's the first season and you're not going to get to every character, but I like how the 2nd season also gives a lot of focus to more the other characters who didn't get as much screen time in the first season. I mean, not that it's a problem with the first season. If anything, it gets me excited for the second. And so in Sauceface, you could kind of guess from the title, it has a sort of like a gangsterish element. We basically follow Candace. Like, this episode is mainly about Candace and how much of a badass student, kind of menacing student she is. And basically what happens in this episode is she and her friend Maddie want to they want to buy these drones, but they can't afford it. So what Candace ends up doing is selling hot sauce at her school, like basically taking the hot sauce from like her parents' home and start selling them in the school. And the reason why it's kind of treated like this sort of black market, like hush hush sort of thing, is because hot sauce is banned for basically politically correct reasons, and so that's why they have to keep it super secret and things like that. And so there's actually kind of a notable incident that happens in the episode where it involves a wet willy. Like, let me see what happens again. Oh yeah, so yeah, it was the scene where Candace figures out one of the like students has been stealing some money out of her bag and gives a what will release that person. I thought that was just brutal. Well, so yeah, but it's meant to be taken in a more humorous way. And then things go awry when they try when Candace tries to make a deal with this neighboring school. The neighboring school students accuse Candace of like busting them, and they get in this like huge fight involving like a fight with all the arts and crafts supplies. And this one like student with a cast like gets hit with these like scissors, just like get like just gets hit with the scissors, and all this like blood starts shooting out. And so of course things don't go right. Maddie ends up taking the fall, but Candace turns things around by getting this exercise machine for her teacher, Mr. Campbell. And when in this sort of like, strange turn of events, the principal is like, oh wow, so you can make a bunch of money off of hot sauce. And so basically the principal ends up lifting the ban on hot sauce. So yeah, so I thought this was a fun episode, and also something that I just remembered. I really like the regular show reference. Which is cool because JG Quintel also created regular show, and it was really nice to see. I mean, the reference. I mentioned that there were going to be spoilers, so I'll just spill the beans on what the spoiler is. And so basically, what happens is the reference is one of the kids' lunch boxes has like all the regular show characters on it. It's that picture with like Skips and Benson and all the rest. So I thought that was also a really fun episode. So we could move on to House Guest from Hell. I mean, yeah, just a really crazy episode. One that I could actually also kind of relate to, which I thought was a really nice touch. Basically, what happens in this episode is Emily's rather toxic friend Becca comes back into her life, and Becca is one of those like characters that talks way too much about herself, and that sort of like kind of like snobby, like oh my god kind of way, and just talks and talks and talks. And of course Emily's like friends and Josh are trying to tell her, hey, you should, get rid of her and set boundaries. And it's really difficult for Emily because she doesn't want to come off as, and I could see where like episodes coming from. I'm also put into this position, like frankly as well. It's like where you need to set boundaries, but at the same time don't want to come off as overly rude. And of course, like Emily is struggling to do that with Becca, and Becca's just being a complete jerk in the episode. Like, whenever she's taking up the things like Josh wants to watch TV or Bridget wants to take a shower, Becca doesn't listen, and it's just like, oh, can you get me an iced coffee? And she ends up treating Candace like as she calls, a little butler. And so yeah, and things just keep escalating. We hear that, and actually one of the reasons, and the reason why Becca is now staying over at the apartment, is because she set boundaries with her devilish boyfriend Luke. And of course things like escalate from there. We discovered that Becca is pregnant, but we see that this isn't like your typical like 9-month pregnancy. The baby's coming out really fast, and then this other person comes over to help out with giving birth to the baby, and we discover that Luke is really Lucifer. We discover that this ex-boyfriend is really like the devil. I mean, he's also like, this really edgy guy who was like, I'm supposed to DJ at the Samsung pop-up. And so, as Becca's giving birth, and this really crazy, like, sort of exorcism, and her bed is like rocking around. There's a pentagram on the floor. We see blood coming down from the walls. That's where Emily is like, enough is enough. And they set boundaries. And of course, even when she does like press pause on the friendship, Becca still doesn't get it. If anything, Becca thinks that, oh, Emily is the one who's toxic. And of course Emily says the obvious, but still, like, the line you're excited to hear, go to hell, Becca. And that's where things end off. So yeah, so really crazy episode, really fun as well. taking a sip of water. I imagine I'm going to be really thirsty by the end of the stream because this has been really exciting. So again, don't be shy. Let me know your thoughts on Close Enough so far. Really enjoy talking to you all in the stream. I know that JG Quintel fans also check out my channel, which is really awesome because I mentioned that JG Quintel is still one of my favorite animators. It'd be really nice to meet him after the pandemic. Now we get to Joint Break, the episode. We get an episode that focuses on Pearl. I think Pearl is basically the landlady who is a retired LAPD police officer. And what happens in this episode is she's playing around in this sort of Nerf gun fight, and she gets hurt trying to catch Candace. Like, basically hurts her hip, and the LAPD, as part of their insurance plan, recommends this kind of water aerobics class, and so Pearl goes, doesn't do so good, but ends up befriending these three old ladies. At first, it seems like things are going super well, but what Pearl finds out is that these ladies are actually bank robbers. Like, they get into a bunch of heists, and Pearl is even thrown into being their getaway driver, sort of like even like the first bank heist that she gets thrown into, it actually kind of reminded me a little bit of the Edgar Wright movie Baby Driver. Like, they wear the masks and they drive away from the cop. Although the big difference here is that instead of just doing a straightforward getaway chase, the three ladies, except Pearl, like, trick the cops into thinking, oh, they're just innocent, and that sort of thing. And of course, Pearl is not down for this. She gets thrown into one more heist, but she refuses to get away with the ladies on their boat. And as she's trying to arrest the main person, and as she's trying to arrest basically the leader of the pack, the leader wants to experience, like, one last rush, and she goes surfing but ends up drowning, and that's basically it. I mean, it was basically all right episode. Like, it was a decent episode. Probably the best thing about it is that I was able to sympathize with Pearl along the way. I'm glad that, like, she's actually a really fun character. I really like the episodes she's thrown into. We see that she has a heart. She has a heart of gold, but she's also a very, like, protective and tough person. So I thought those were just really great traits for a character to have. So yeah, there you go. Did I miss out on an episode? Oh shoot, I forgot an episode, the one that came after Josh gets shredded. So up until now, the order is supposed to be Josh gets shredded, Meet the Frackers, Sauce Face, House Guest from Hell, and Joint Break. So I apologize, I forgot to talk about Meet the Frackers, which is, really stupid of me to miss out on, because guess who's in Meet the Frackers? There's Wendy Malick is in this episode. Yeah, from BoJack Horseman, and most recently she played Ida in The Owl House. As soon as I heard Wendy's character speak in this episode, Wendy plays Randy's birth mother, I was like, wait, I know that voice. And sure enough, looked it up, went on IMDb, and also checked the credits of the episode. It is indeed Wendy Malick, like it was Ida's voice. So yeah, so I just thought it was really great to hear from Wendy Malick again. So anyway, what the heck is Meet the Frackers about? Well, Meet the Frackers, as I kind of hinted at, it's basically the episode where Randy finally meets his birth parents. Like, basically, they go through the story where Randy discovers what happened is that his parents used to steal gasoline from cars, and one night Pearl catches them. Like, this was years ago, back when Pearl was a police officer, and the parents end up, instead of turning themselves in, they give up Randy, and Pearl tries to get the parents to meet with their son Randy, but the parents basically are not interested. Great traits for parents, and that is basically where Pearl takes over. And so and funny enough, Randy starts off the episode really like pissed off at Pearl, saying, why didn't you tell me? And Pearl basically says that she wasn't sure if Randy would be able to handle like the truth of what happened to the parents. In fact, Randy says what he was told instead was that the parents were like killed like trying to fight off aliens. And so Randy goes off and meets the parents, who have now become like really rich oil frackers. At first it seems like things are going along great. Randy even has some of the traits of the parents, like the way he's able to slurp up drinks is very similar to how one of the parents slurps up oil, and has the ability to sniff out gasoline. And at first it seems like things are going really great. They actually want to hold this carnival at the apartment, but what they're really doing is the party is really just so that the parents can get their hands on the oil that's underneath the apartment. And of course, the problem with that is it would basically require destroying the place in order to get access to the oil. And so Randy is like, really caught in this really strange place where he's like, should I go along with my parents, or should I stick to, Pearl, the person who adopted me, and that kind of thing. So at first it seems like it gets going that way, but ultimately, of course, Randy ultimately like decides to, side with his morals and go along with Pearl, and he and Pearl, team up together in order to stop the parents, in order to, stop them from getting away. So, yeah, so I thought that this episode had a good amount of heart. Really glad to see the backstory of Randy and figure out what happened, and, what happened to his parents. And we find out that, to put it nicely, his parents aren't exactly the nicest of people. But still a fun episode nonetheless. Anyway, back to the order. Let's see. Cybermatrix. I really oh my god, I really liked just as like somebody who follows like the tech industry and computers and what have you, I really like the references that happen in Cybermatrix. So basically what happens is in Cybermatrix, Alex I'll tell this story. His phone breaks. Like basically, what happens is he's one of those people that's like stuck with using an older phone, and he's saying it's because modern smartphones are ruining society and all that. And he's kind of one of those people. I like the little tidbit at the beginning where he's one of those people that still uses those like Thomas guide maps instead of a GPS, which I kind of laughed when I saw that, because without getting too specific, I know some people who still use those maps. And so we think that Alex thinks that he's all good, but then he loses his phone in like a freak accident where a bird takes it away, and then it bounces off all these things, and it winds up in this toilet. And he's thinking, oh, I'll just put it in a bag of rice, which I did recently to one of my Internet of Things accessories. But then some dude goes in the toilet and takes a shit, and now he's not getting his phone back because, well, some random stranger defecated on it. So and so he ends up getting this new phone from a company called, what is it? The name, I know the name, I remember the name of the assistant, Kira. It's from a company called Fractal, and it has the smart assistant named Kira, who is like, I could promise you to help out with everything. The main problem, though, is it basically completely takes control of Alex's life. It's almost like the smart assistant is like, it's like if HAL 9000 and Siri had a demonic child, and there you go, that's Kira. And so that's basically the idea. At first it seems like things are going great. Kira is helping out Alex with deliveries and to get him access to very suggestive content and that sort of thing. And he ends up being put in this, this kind of like pod, Like, he's basically stuck, like, completely sucked into the digital world, and Josh goes in with his USB VR headset. Seriously, like, I'm just like, if I could jump in the episode, I'm just like, USB-C, that's where it's at. Reversible cables, you know? That's why I bought this MacBook Pro. And, so Josh goes into the virtual world and sees Alex is there. Alex is like, oh, I don't want to leave. And look, I even got digital versions of my friends that seem to agree with me. But the problem is these digital versions are have become a lot smarter than him because they're connected to the internet. And so Kira, I think, is like threatens to upload Alex's consciousness. Yeah, she's going to upload Alex's consciousness to what's called the cyber matrix. And so in order to stop, like, basically slow down the uploading speed, um Josh and Alex end up utilizing a whole bunch of services to try to slow down the signal. Meanwhile, Josh tells Emily to get everyone else together and go destroy the cell tower. And Kira comes up with all these, like, distractions, like orders all these delivery people to come beat the shit out of Emily and friends, and of course that doesn't work. And then she orders these 2 Tesla drivers to come and, like, you know, smash her car, and of course they're able to beat that. And so they end up knocking down the cell tower by having Pearl plant a C4 explosive and having us send this text message of this bomb emoji over to this phone that's implanted into the C4, and it's what knocks the cell tower down. And we think the day is saved. In fact, I think there's a 2001 A Space Odyssey reference when Kira is defeated, because when Kira is, like, defeated and losing her memory, Kira starts singing the Smash Mouth song All Star, but in, like, a gradually, like, kind of slowed down sort of way, and turns red, kind of like the scene in 2001 A Space Odyssey where Dave is shutting down Hal, and Hal starts singing the Daisy Bell song, you know, Daisy, Daisy, give me your answer, please, in this, like, very slow, kind of demonic sort of way. So I think it was supposed to be a 2001 reference. I mean, I guess you could argue, well, this episode combines like 2001, The Matrix, and Siri, I guess. Just evil Siri, I suppose. And so we think the day is saved, but actually, without getting too specific, Kira has trapped them all. LOL. So, yeah. Yeah, so yeah, Cyber Matrix, a really fun episode. Really like the tech references. I really like how Josh and Alex try to stop Kira, and the things that Kira does in order to try to stop Emily, Pearl, and Bridget and Candace from destroying the cell tower. I thought it was, like, really creative, and I really enjoyed all the techie references. Again, as somebody who follows the computer industry on the side, I even kind of chuckled when I heard that Kira is powered by a B12 bionic processor, and I'm like, give me a second here. Gonna take it out of its case. I was like, a B12 Bionic? Well, my iPhone XR has an A12 Bionic processor, so I was like, so I kind of liked how I was able to get the reference. So I just thought it was all really funny. So okay, so Cyber Matrix is pretty good, and Jesus Christ, I am sweating a lot from all the energy of talking about these episodes. So, and anybody else watching, if you would like to let me know your favorite, a close enough episode, particularly of this season, let me know down below let me know in the live chat. So yeah, I'm just making sure, because I know that Google gets really weird with live chats sometimes. I almost kind of feel like I'm Robin Williams or Steve Jobs, where they're just, like, drinking water quite a few times throughout their speeches. But yeah, it's good to be hydrated. So next episode is Haunted Couch, the episode where Bridget gets ghosted by a guy, and then she discovers that this haunted couch that Alex and Josh brought home actually has this ghost of a French designer, and Bridget starts to basically date this ghost, like going to a ball game together and going to a teppanyaki restaurant, and even doing the do if you know what I'm referring to, by using Randy as a vessel. I'm just like, oh my god. Uh, but the problem is that this ghost constantly wants to hang out with Bridget and doesn't even give her space to brush her teeth and that sort of thing. And of course, the two characters have a big falling out. And oh yeah, I know. Yeah, and I also just recalled in my notes that even the designer says, of course, has to say, "You're tearing me apart," which you could take as either a Rebel Without a Cause reference or, of course, The Room. You're tearing me apart, Lisa. And so yeah, and of course, and in that experience, Bridget realizes that she's basically giving reasons for the guys she's dated to ghost her, basically because she's refused to let dudes put their toothbrushes in her bathroom, which is kind of weird. And so, of course, things don't work out, and so the two break off, and it was just a really crazy episode. So yeah, so On the Couch was a pretty good episode as well. Ooh, Man Up. Funny enough, it's the episode that brought back Josh's really weird organ system. So, if you remember in the last season, we see that when Josh is sometimes thrown into a really hairy situation, we see that his heart starts pumping, and then his brain gets activated by the Macintosh startup sound. Except in this episode, what happens is, when Josh is caught in a situation where he thinks he's getting attacked by an alien at the bank, his brain is like, oh my god, what do I do? What does his stomach say? Run! But what ends up happening is, one, it was actually just a publicity stunt by the bank, and he ends up leaving Emily and Candace behind. Like, basically, I don't want to say left to die, but, if this was a far more dangerous situation, things could have gone even worse. And, so basically, Josh takes up lessons on toughening up from Randy and Pearl, and we see that basically Josh becomes Bruce Willis from Die Hard. Or then, I was actually thought that there was going to be a scene where Josh is going to have to walk through broken glass because he's in the outfit and even has the bare feet, so I thought he was going to be limping by the end, but nope. What ends up happening is he ends up going to this really big event for the, what was it called? It was basically like a combination of a sausage and a cucumber. The barbecue cumber, yes, the barbecue cumber. And then there's this terrorist situation where terrorists come in. At first, Josh thinks that, oh, this is some kind of like setup from Pearl, and of course figures out that this is a real life situation where he's gonna have to save the day, especially Emily and Candace. I don't know why I almost said Bridget, but Emily and Candace. And when he realizes that, he goes back into that sort of like really terrible fight or flight mode, where his instinct is to panic. And so, like, once again, his brain is like, what do I do? The stomach's like, run! Except his brain is like, we gotta figure this out. We can't just run away. And then it goes down to, they don't show it for realsies, but it goes down to a hot dog, and the hot dog says, "Don't look at me. I'm just your dong." Which you figure that out. And so Josh goes back in, gets shot. We think he gets shot in the hot dog, and pushes the lead terrorist out the window, and a bunch of popcorn comes, and he saved the day. And Emily thinks that Josh got shot, except there's no blood. It doesn't look like he's injured. And what actually saved Josh from getting shot was this the coin purse from the bank I mentioned earlier, like saved, like, blocked bullet from hitting his family jewels. So yeah, so I thought it was a really fun, hair-raising episode. I wonder if I should do, because I've done like parodies of the thing where Josh is like, I done like my own parody of where Josh is hard activated his brain. Maybe I should do like something similar where like my stomach influences me. I'm just like, why is his stomach like telling Josh to run? Is he hungry? Like, does he want like without getting into that, like is he hungry or what? Game. Whew. Yeah, so yeah. These episodes are just really hair raising fun. I mean, I guess what do you expect from J.G. Quintel? Once again, if you've seen the episodes yourself, please let me know what you think in the live chat. I really enjoy discussing the episodes with you all. Yeah, because I don't want to make these streams just about my own opinions. I also like to hear from you. Chris said, you like the idea. Yeah, maybe I could do that for Close Enough's third season. Like when the trailer comes out, maybe I'll do like a thing where my stomach is telling me to run for some reason, and then my brain says, hey, you shouldn't just run. Chris, since would you like to name your favorite episode of the season? The second season, because I'd like to hear what you have to say. Excuse me. And then oh, I think I'm gonna sneeze. Oh, I thought a sneeze was coming, but it didn't. Chris says the King Kong one. Yeah, I also really like the King Kong episode as well. The Josh gets shredded one. Honestly, I would even go as far as to say it's probably my favorite episode of the season. It's tough to name a single one though, because there was so many. There's quite a few ones that I really liked. Then we get to Handy, which is no, not birthdays yet. Handy, where basically Randy figures out that Pearl doesn't really trust him to do repairs anymore. It doesn't trust him to be his handyman because a lot of his previous methods have really sucked. I really like the joke in the opening where Randy first thinks that his mother is cheating, and Pearl is like, it's not what it looks like, and starts kissing the replacement handyman, and Pearl is like, and we're actually in love, even though that's not really the case. So Randy thinks that he needs to find some kind of new calling, and ends up going on a ship, basically pulling a dangerous catch where it looks like he's trying to, take part in this really dangerous fishing, and ends up on this island. What cracks me up, I think this says something about like Randy's character, is like he washes up on the island and it's like, oh no, I'm gonna be like Tom Hanks in that movie. It's Castaway, but he hasn't figured it out, and so he's like, what do I do? Or actually, no, not even what do I do. He's like, what is the name of that movie? And he sees that his phone is on 1% battery, but instead of like calling for help, Oh, hey Nick, how you doing? So, I haven't watched season 2 yet, which is cool. I'd highly recommend it. I would even go as far as to say that season 2 was even funner than the first season. Like the first season was a very good introduction. The second one and takes it up a notch and focuses on care and gives more of the secondary characters even more screen time. So yeah, I think that if you really like the first season, Nick, I think you're really gonna have a blast with the second one. So it's really good to hear from you, Nick. Have you seen the first season of Close Enough? But so yeah, so on the episode, Randy is like, oh, what is that movie? And of course, doesn't figure it out until he even goes another step. It's like I gotta increase the brightness, and of course, the phone dies, and he's and gets this. I think he accidentally knocks himself. Yeah, yeah, he accidentally knocks himself out. At first, he thinks he's having a fantasy of these like tiny Randys, like kind of like I I don't know why I have in my notes Gilligan's Island. It's Gulliver, a Gulliver reference where it looks like they're trying to fix him, but he gets up and he has this. I think he's imagining it because all of a sudden he starts seeing these three handy people, like the guy who hosts This Old House, Tim Allen from Home Improvement, all the grunts included, like the and that sort of thing, and some IKEA character. And so they help Randy build this shelter, which looks a lot like the house that or the apartment that Randy used to live in. But what ends up happening is through building this house and getting it destroyed, he finds out that the toilet in his own home is actually he plugged up. Nick, what did you say? I've watched half of season 1 and I'm gonna watch more later tonight. See you later, man. Good talking to you. It's good seeing from you too. I hope you enjoy the rest of the Close Enough episode. And so Randy decides to go back home and he figures out like how to solve this problem, like how to prevent this like really this pipe in his apartment that's like like bulging and it looks like it's about to burst, and he's able to fix it without getting the house destroyed. It causes some water to shoot up from the manhole covers outside the house, but is able to solve it, and it saves the day. So yeah, so there you go. That was handy, a pretty decent episode. Then we get to I really like this episode, birthdays. This is the actually, before I get to birthdays, I kind of need to use the restroom, so I'll be back in a second. Anybody watching, if anybody else comes by and is like, "Where am I?" Let them know in the chat that I'm off to use the restroom. So I'll be back in a second. Okay, I am back. So, continuing on. Right, so where did we leave off? We already talked about, oh yeah, birthdays. So it's the, yeah, so birthdays is the episode where, Josh and Emily are really sick of going, constantly having to go to all these birthday parties, as are the parents of the kids from the elementary school. And so what they end up trying to do is Candace's birthday is coming up, and the adults are going to go party off in the nearby garage. And of course, Candace doesn't like, this at all, because she wants to still be able to spend time with her parents. I like how with Candace, even though it's very clear that she's a very very tough kid, very menacing kid, at the end of the day, she's still someone who wants to spend time with her parents and still has a lot of those vulnerabilities. Has a lot of vulnerabilities. So it's like, I like that kind of like sort of mix where it's like even though she's like a very fun, menacing character, they still show much of her human side, and that she wants to spend more time with her parents and that kind of thing. So what ends up happening is the parents, Josh and Emily, are like fine, but the parents can't hold their liquor, and they go start making fun of this magician that shows up at Candace's party. And the magician makes all the children disappear, and Josh and Emily have to go find them. And so, yeah, I think for me, I like the message that's in the episode, and I also really like the creativity when they go off into this place, this birthday world, in order to find the kids. It's a very imaginary place. Really like the different ways Josh and Emily are able to pass through you, and they take down this really big birthday cake. They eat these pizza characters and knock out some piñatas along the way. And in order to get Candace back, they're able to find the birthday, all the other birthday guests pretty easily in the castle, but they can't find Candace. And the magician makes them answer a test in order to get Candace back. And the first question is, what kind of cake does Candace like? And it's the sort of thing, I really like how it sort of it shows like some of the problems, like how Josh and Emily, they can't remember a lot of things about their kid because they haven't been spending enough time with her. And at first, I think it was actually Josh, right? Looking at my notes here. Where Josh picks this birthday cake with strawberries is because he's like, oh, Candace, likes favorite. It's that sort of thing where like the parent assumes, oh, my kid likes his favorite foods, so they must like this treat. But it's like, no, it's not that simple. And instead Candace likes this sort of like large cake with white frosting. And of course, in the second question is which birthday activity does Candace like? And I think for that one, was it Emily? That's about it. But basically, the answer to that is that it's not that Candace likes only one activity; it's whatever she does with her parents. And then the last one is where Josh and Emily have to come clean and tell Candace. Candace asks them, why did you go off and party in the garage? And Josh and Emily say it's because they wanted to, some time to have fun on their own. So with that kind of honesty, that's how they're able to mend things with Candace. I really like how in that scene Candace is like, and to make up for things, you'll buy me an iPad Pro, right? So it kind of makes me crack up because it's like even I can't afford like to get an iPad Pro. So it's like, yeah. So I thought it was kind of a nice touch, and the episode ends in a pretty sweet way. So yeah, pretty nice mix of like things that are funny and sweet. Still like one of my favorite close enough episodes because it has that mix put together. And so next one. So anybody else has thoughts on the close enough episodes? You could let me know in the chat. It's been really fun discussing these episodes with you all. So Time Hooch, we get a glimpse into Alex and Bridget's tumultuous relationship and how basically in this episode we find out that Alex has not signed the divorce papers between him and Bridget because he was hoping that he was able to mend the relationship, get themselves back together. And basically throughout this episode, like Alex is going back in time and drinks this liquor that he finds. He and Josh go back in time to various points where a fight happens between him and Emily, and Josh, and at first like goes back to the fight that caused the divorce and stops his past self from who was saying, I wish I was never married, and like stops the past self. But then they're constantly going back in time to other points where they're getting into fights and meeting the past self and meeting his past selves and stopping all those past selves from getting into a fight with Bridget. And it eventually all adds up to the night where Alex meets Bridget for the very first time. And so Alex, for all this, realizes that, there's really, going back and stopping his past selves is not going to solve anything because it's just basically going to delay the inevitable and, frankly, mess up, the sands of time, if you will. But so he's trying to stop, his past selves from getting even close to the past version of Alex that's just about to meet Bridget in that bar, and he ends up throwing Alex ends up throwing that liquor container. It's kind of like a barrel, and it causes this portal to open, and it sends all the past versions of Alex back to the different times where they came from, and it accidentally sends Josh and Alex, the present Josh and Alex, to the future where it looks like they're going to be destroyed by these robots, but then the future versions of Alex and Josh come in on the Tesla, not the Cybertruck, but that 18-wheeler or Tesla truck, and of course like saves them, sends them back to the present time, and Alex signs the divorce papers. So I thought it was a really fun episode with a great message. So on to the next one. So we talked about birthdays, Time Hooch. World's Greatest Teacher was also a really fun one. This episode focusing actually on Candace's teacher, Mr. Campbell. Basically what happens is this music teacher comes in, and like everybody, he likes her. She goes by the name River and is impressing all the kids, and it makes the kids really want to get into playing music instruments. And Campbell is worried that his students are going to end up preferring this teacher over himself, and so he ends up trying to look cool in front of the kids, and ends up accidentally getting the class pet turtle like killed from dropping the aquarium, and one of the glass shards like impales the turtle, and we see that that River is actually teaching the kids like learning how to read. One of the students learns to read what looks like a copy of Arthur's Eyes, which really cool because horror is was one of my favorite book franchises when I was a kid, and so what ends up happening, we discover that River herself is very like foul-mouthed and competitive, and they end up having like this singing competition at this barbecue taking place at Candace's house, and the two befriend each other. I guess one like weird thing is that even though they end up befriending each other, which is cool, does that mean that I mean, I don't. Does that mean that Rivers still ends up being the music teacher and that sort of thing? Which I guess you could let me know in the chat. How do you think things wrap up? But still, I thought it was a decent episode. I thought that the rivalry between Mr. Campbell and River was like it made up much of the entertaining things about this episode. So yeah, so I thought it was a good episode as well. So just making sure that we're all good. Now we're moving on to, so we did Time Mooch, World's Greatest Teacher. Oh, Where'd You Go, Bridget? I really like this episode. I really like how insane and surreal things get in this episode. Basically, um Bridget has a smartphone addiction, like constantly on her phone, and she's an influencer, constantly like posting all these sorts of new things. And she's addicted to her phone to a point where she's even like texting at LAX and gets on this flight to Tokyo and comes back to LAX. But I think because she didn't have a passport, she gets caught by the police, and Pearl is there, and Pearl's like, I'm gonna help you kick your smartphone addiction. And it's pretty much like watching a heroin addict struggling to give up heroin. We see that Bridget is like constantly doing this with her fingers because she thinks that she constantly needs to text, and she has a lot of trouble handling like the pressure of kicking the smartphone addiction. She even has like this really crazy like dream sequence where the Twitter bird is like, why aren't you checking in? And even has like this vision of her being really like old and like, what happened, and it was like, you didn't check in on your friends, and gets thrown into this coffin in the dream. And meanwhile, what's going on is that because she hasn't been on social media for a really long time by Bridget's standards, her friends like Josh, Emily, and Alex think that she has been abducted, and they end up getting the help of this really shady podcast in order to help. But the podcast turns it into, we think that Josh, Emily, and Alex have cooked up Bridget and ate her, and they get this like whole mob to like go against Josh, Emily, and Alex, and they're March for Bridget, we want justice and that kind of thing. And so Bridget, it seems like she has kicked her smartphone addiction when she drinks a latte. For once, drinks a latte instead of just posting a picture of it, and opens the curtains and sees that people think that she has been abducted and her friends are in big trouble. And she makes this big speech telling people, hey, get off your smartphones for once and go spend time in real life. But of course, the crowd doesn't really listen, but ultimately, the good news is things are patched up, and Bridget is off the smartphone addiction for a while, for now. So yeah, I really like the creative imagery in this episode. It really gets you really sort of like engaged, and you don't want to see Josh, Emily, and Alex get in all this sort of trouble. And so yeah, just a really fun, surreal episode. Another one of my one of the really great episodes of the second season. So yeah, okay, so now we're getting down to the last 3 episodes. Again, if you are just joining the stream, we are talking about Close Enough Season 2. I watched all the episodes. I just finished them all today. You could let me know your thoughts in the chat, what you thought of them. I really enjoyed the second season, and we're currently just about to talk about the erotic awakening of AP LaPearl. Basically, in this episode, Alex becomes like this writer of like these fantasy kick butt stories that involves a lot of erotic like shit that happens, and so he thinks that he's going to be a successful writer. The problem is the publishing company is like, yeah, we don't really see a market for erotic novels written by men, and the publisher points out that people want something like stuff that's written by the 50 Shades of Grey author. And so the episode story, it basically becomes a Big Eyes situation, like basically like what happened between Walter and Margaret Keane with the painting. So in this episode, what ends up happening is, to get around this issue, Alex writes the stories, but Pearl takes credit as the author. As Pearl puts it, I forgot the saying. She says something like Alex is the book and Pearl is the jacket, and that sort of thing. So of course Pearl is going on tour, and at first Alex is going along with this, but really doesn't like how he's getting pushed aside because, nobody thinks that he was the one who was writing it. And this gives Pearl the chance to be on her basically favorite TV show with this character named, I hope I'm pronouncing this right, Pura. Like basically this character is like a parody of like Oprah Winfrey, and so we're seeing that Pearl's about to go on the show to read what people think is like the new book from the erotic author Pearl. But even like, we see that Pearl herself, it's not that she wants to completely take credit, it was just her way of like getting Alex's book published. But we see that Pearl doesn't want to put up with this anymore. Alex claims credit and makes everybody puke and start rioting. I mean, even just like when we see that everybody in the audience of the Opera show and even the host herself are all like super angry to hear that Alex is really the writer and Pearl is not. They're all like, like getting angry. They set fire to the studio, which is just insane, and everybody is like puking and starting like all these like riots, and people are angry and that sort of thing. But the episode ultimately ends on even though the rest of the world may not be thrilled with Alex writing these stories, what matters is that Pearl does care for his stories. It's just that they happen to be really horny stories at that. So, yeah, so that is the erotic awakening of AP LaPearl. And get on to this next episode, Men Rock. Basically, in this episode, Bridget and Emily, we see that they often perform together where they sing and play guitar, and they get really popular in this country called Romania, which I guess is a mix of Croatia and Romania. And we see that they're really popular and they're going to perform there, and their leader is really like happy and wants them to perform. But what they don't know is basically the people, particularly the men of Romania, basically like misinterprets the song and makes it so that they interpret the song in this like very misogynistic way where women can't vote in Romania or can't drive and that kind of thing. And we even see that probably the creepiest imagery of that episode. It has a very like creepy dystopian tone throughout the episode, and we even see that a lot of the women in Romania are all like forced to get hairstyles to look like Emily, and we see that some of them are even like crying and look really like sad and scared. And we see that Bridget and Emily aren't going to put up with this and come up with this song about empowering women, which causes the women of Romania to rebel, and Bridget and Emily like get out of the country with the help of this one person who helps them, and they come back to the States and perform to a modest crowd. It's just that when they get home they don't have to put up with tons of danger and that sort of thing. So yeah, so pretty decent episode, I would say. Hey, Men Rock. And then we get to probably the last great episode of season 2, which would be Secret Horse. I just really like how the different ways the characters use this magical horse that randomly pops up. Because at first we see that Candace uses the horse to play games with her, but each character thinks that they have to hide the horse from each other, and also so they don't want to get in trouble with LA County and that kind of thing. And so we see that Candace uses the horse to play with her, and then Josh uses the horse to help set up TVs. Alex uses the horse to help place bets at the Santa Anita racetrack. Pearl uses the horse to relive her LAPD days. Bridget uses the horse to help her get off social media and do things like Tai Chi. And then Emily, we see, uses the horse in order to transport her to, I think it's Pandora. It really looks like Avatar. She even, looks like one of the characters. And so all these characters are having a really good time with the horse. But then when they discover or that each character has been using the horse, they're all, fighting and saying, no, it's my turn to use the horse and that sort of thing. And when the horse is asked, to decide who the horse, loves most, the horse runs away and goes off to this field in Griffith Park. For a second, and we think that the horse is just there to be a metaphor, but the horse is really real in the episode and pees on this car. So yeah, I thought it was a really creative episode. I really like the all the different ways the characters use this magical horse. So overall, I thought that Close Enough season 2 was a really fun season. I really enjoyed it. I had a lot of really creative episodes. If I were to pick what were some of my favorite episodes, I would go with Josh Gets Shredded, Where'd You Go, Bridget? What was that one again? The Matrix episode was also a really good one. Cyber Matrix, yes. So yeah, those are my 3 favorite episodes, and I would recommend checking them out. So if you would like to check out Close Enough on HBO Max, I think you would. And if you have seen Regular Show, I think you're really gonna like Close Enough if you are a fan of Regular Show. Like, think of Close Enough. It's basically, imagine Regular Show's style, except with more adult jokes, and the characters have slightly different personalities. Like, one thing that I do really like about Close Enough is that it doesn't feel so close to Regular Show where it feels like JGG Quintel is just slashing and burning and rehashing what he's already done. As much as I do really like Regular Show, I do kind of think that it did overstay its welcome a bit. Although that being said, I do really like the season finale of Regular Show. I actually got really sad when I saw what happened to Pops. And it just makes me wonder when, as I mentioned, Regular Show is Close Enough going to be in Regular Show's boat, where it starts off with there is continuity, but most of the episodes function in a way where they're not like super connected together the way shows like Infinity Train and The Owl House are. But I'm kind of wondering if we're going to see something like that happen to Close Enough in the later seasons and go in that sort of Regular Show way where it wants to have a story. So who knows? We'll just have to see. Yeah, but overall, I do really like the season. And so, anybody else watching, if you've seen the second season of Close Enough, let me know in the chat. Let me know what your thoughts are and what you think of this season. Because overall, I just had a lot of fun. Hopefully, I didn't get too spoilery, although I did say in the beginning that this was going to be a spoiler review. So, I think I'll keep this stream going until maybe 6:50 in case anybody else has any more to say on this season. Oh, thank you, Chris. I'm glad you liked the review. So a few more minutes. I will say, since I'm here, in terms of upcoming videos, I'm not gonna like promise any release dates or anything, just in case things fall through. Currently, after now that I've reviewed Close Enough second season, the next review I'm thinking of doing is Raya and the Last Dragon, the new Disney film, which is on Disney Plus right now. I've heard good things about it. I hope I do end up liking that movie. It looks pretty good. No spoilers in the chat if you've seen the film, because I haven't checked it out yet. Because I said to myself that I was gonna finish Close Enough first and then go do Raya. I know I've got other shows to review. I still need to finish Kid Cosmic. I've seen 2 episodes of Kid Cosmic and I really like it. Surprisingly fresh show from Craig McCracken. I didn't recognize. I mean, I know it was made by Craig McCracken, but the style didn't like instantly jump off as Craig McCracken. So I give him props for setting the show apart. Yeah. Okay. So since it's 6:50 and I finished the review, I think I'll end things off here. So yeah. So those currently watching, thank you for joining me for my review of Close Enough second season. Hopefully the third season is going to be great as well. If you haven't checked it out, I do recommend checking it out on HBO Max. Close Enough is easily one of my favorite shows on the service. So until next time, this has been Blood Moon Bobby, and I'll see you all later.